Hello and welcome back to Clownfish TV. It is me, Geeky Sparkles, and it's just me for this video because Neon is actually fine, don't worry, but he is waiting for a tech to come for something, and it's one of those, they'll be here in this 5-hour time frame and you have to stay home just in case. So he sent me down here to do videos without him, but he'll be back for videos today. So this is something that I was talking to him about the other day and we were discussing it. And Agatha All Along versus the Acolyte. Now, Agatha All Along, a lot of people aren't watching. I watch it. It's actually really good. It's actually good. Let's put it that way. The last episode I just did was actually really, really well done. I mean, they did a really good job with that last episode. But I understand people don't want to watch it because it really is for a demographic that's not male. It's for women. If you like WandaVision, that kind of thing, I can see it. If you know, are LGBTQ, you might prefer this version, which I can see that. Do I think it's like for the normal male Marvel audience? No. All right, I really don't think it is. But does that mean it's bad? No. But what I noticed was the difference the media is giving fans, how they're behaving between Agatha and the Acolyte. So with the Acolyte, it was constant bombardment about the trolls and all that crap, and the toxic man babies and things with Star Wars. But when it came to Agatha All Along, we aren't seeing that. And I have some thoughts on this. So before I get into it any further, please like and subscribe. And if you do, we'll get a woohoo, woohoo. I also want to make sure I mention, because I keep forgetting to do it, please check out Clownfish Minus. It's our non-plus club. So you can support the channel outside of YouTube. And for the first month, you get a discount if you sign up. And then there's also products that anybody can purchase. But if you are a member, you do get a discount on those products. So I feel like I have to make sure I mention that. But back to this. So my thought is, isn't it interesting that the media keeps trying to spin this narrative that if you don't like the Acolyte, it's because you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a toxic troll. You have the actors out there making comments, doing videos and all that stuff, you know, just driving it even more, you know, compared to Marvel, which seems to have different procedures in place for their actors and things, because they aren't out there shooting their mouths off all the time. They aren't out there whining about everything. They aren't out there actively chasing off the audience, and the audience isn't hating the Agatha All Along like they did the Acolyte. And I think the media and the people involved in the show do more damage to a show than the fans they blame it on. And I don't understand how, if the Acolyte's only hated because any criticism isn't valid unless it's what they agree with, but if you don't like it, you're a bigot, including people who didn't even care enough to watch it because they didn't think it looked good. If that was true because you don't like female-led shows, you don't like people of color, you don't like LGBTQ themes, then why is one, you know, not doing well and the other one doing well? I mean, by their argument, they both should suck. They both should be harassed constantly. They should both be review bombed, right? But they aren't. But there's a difference. One's significantly better than the other, for one. The show is definitely, Agatha All Along is definitely better than the Acolyte. So there's one part. The other part is the behavior out of the cast and crew is completely different. And another part, I would argue, is the media and what they're trying to spin. And all it's doing when they do this is turning people against it. So let's take a look at this. I was just thinking about this when I was talking to Neon, and I was bringing it up that, you know, lately there's been a narrative that people don't like a project led by women or diverse individuals. It's because they're white, straight, man, baby, toxic, troll, whiny pants bigots. So maybe this one show isn't as good as the other. Like, you know, Occam's razor, guys. You know, maybe one's just not as good. And they keep trying to argue that if you hate these shows, you're some kind of bigot because you don't like diversity and inclusion, but both shows have diverse and inclusive casts and even some themes. It's just that one show doesn't push it as much as the other one. And they both have witches, too. You go down to Rotten Tomatoes. Remember, review bombing. You got out here to the Acolyte, 78% critical score, 18% audience score. Huge difference, 60-point difference. Do I think review bombing was part of this? Yes. However, when the media was running with that narrative for review bombing, there were a bunch of people running to it and voting it up, too. So it was canceling each other out for the most part. So I think, is it as low as 18%? Probably not. But do I think it's 78%? Hell no. You're lucky, maybe 30, maybe. You know, I don't think it's as high because they canceled each other out. As soon as the media made it a big talking point, all the anti-toxic people, all the ones that are pro, all this stuff were running to it, trying to white knight but boost it. So they canceled each other out. It still would stay low. Agatha All Along, you aren't hearing that narrative because it has an 81% audience score without the media interfering and an 83% critical score. You're not getting the same thing because they treated them completely different by the media as well. Because maybe, just maybe, the Acolyte was being voted down initially because it wasn't good and people didn't like it. And then you all ran with that narrative that it was review bombing, which then just sent people to review bomb it more. You know, at that point, they are review bombing it. And then there's people that were working the other way, too. You weren't hearing that with this. One's Lucasfilm, one's Marvel. I honestly think that part of the issue is that the way that the releases are handled and the way that their celebrities are trained to deal with the media are different. I think Marvel people are trained far more, or they have more experience, and they aren't, you know, so there's, while some of them, you know, are younger and raised on the internet and constant, you know, outrage train. Other ones are older and been around a while. They know, hey, you know, and this too shall pass kind of situation. I mean, I'm sure it sucks, but if you just kept your mouth shut and let the work speak for itself, if the work is good, people will notice. You know, if you weren't out there actively trying to turn people against a project, maybe people would have given it more of a chance. And then, but even if they did, I still think they're going to find this was going to be significantly lower than this one because this is actually pretty good. So I'm saying the media and the stars exacerbate issues, okay? When it comes to backlash regarding these shows, the media seems to play a large role in amplifying issues for clicks and encouraging stars to cry fans, making the fans even angrier. With The Acolyte, the stars and media caused issues from the beginning, painting those who didn't like the show as bigots and trolls while claiming that their criticisms were invalid, but fair criticism was okay. Again, any criticism was met with name-calling. If you go search Acolyte toxic or Acolyte, you know, man baby or Acolyte, you know, bigotry or racism, you're going to get way more results than you do for Agatha All Along. So I said maybe Lucasfilm doesn't properly train its actors in the media. Amanda Stenberg went out and made that video. She was so mad about people not liking her show. And of course it can't be because maybe the show wasn't good or her acting wasn't good. It had to be because everybody else, you know, even the ones who didn't watch it were all bigots, which is why they're all terrible people and racist. That she had to shake her butt and make a thing called, was it discourse or something, slamming on the racists. And while, yes, I'm sure some racists were involved in the decline of the show, the majority is probably going to be people who just didn't like the show or people who didn't watch the show because the viewership was not great. Plus, the show cost a shit ton more money than Agatha All Along did. Agatha All Along is one of the cheapest Marvel shows they've done. So, you know, they're going to more likely go wanting to greenlight more of that than they are The Acolyte when they lost so much money and there's been so much negative press surrounding it. All right. Carrie-Anne Moss, she's a veteran actor. She didn't behave in a way where she's just calling everybody racist and bigotry. She just said, you know, what's her thought on the cancellation? And she's like, yeah, I mean, I've been asked this question a lot today. And it's funny because, you know, when being an actor, you're in shows all the time that are canceled. And it's in the beginning, it's kind of a bummer. And then you just learn to not really be invested. You can't be, it's a protection mechanism. Basically, I've done this a long time. I'm not going to be offended by it because it happens. There's a big difference between somebody who's been around and been trained in media and then a Mandela. There just really is. And the behavior, I think, hurts or helps the show. So I said when it comes to Agatha All Along, other than the initial media boost where one reporter kept trying to say it's the gayest Marvel show ever. And I saw it. And initially, people were running with that. Oh my God, guys, it's the gayest show ever. It's the gayest show ever. And when you watch the videos, it's one guy going up to, and he clearly himself is, you know, LGBTQ+, going up to the actors and being like, I hear it's the gayest Marvel show ever, you know? And of course the actors were put in the spot and like they had, you know, different people making comments about it, but they're not going to say like Aubrey Plaza was like, I sure hope so. That's why I signed up for. Because, you know, they're trying to handle it in a way that's not going to be offensive to people. But that was the only real push that we heard about that. Even the Joe Locke started out kind of being like a bit like, you know, oh, I'm going to push this, you know, but then he didn't. He actually brought this up, which I thought was really well done. He was interviewed and he said, you know, he was talking about it because, of course, he's in Heartstopper. And he said, you know, Agatha All Along is being gay. And he said, well, it's got many layers. And it's definitely, and gay is one of them. And it is. He then highlighted the difference between the MCU and Project and Heartstopper. In Heartstopper, the queerness is the plot of the show. It's important to the show. With Agatha All Along, it's not the driving force of the plot. Having positive queer characters in a show is great, but he's basically like, the story doesn't revolve around that. I mean, it is relevant. It is in there. Like, there are scenes where he's making out with a guy and stuff like that, which I can understand people don't want to watch that. That's your choice, you know, it's cool. But it's not the point of the show. It's not about being gay. The show isn't about that. It just has representation in it. And they said that, you know, when it comes to Agatha All Along and how it would impact the community in terms of pop culture, he said, I never really thought about it. It's one of those things that gets a bit stressful. You think about it too much. And they're talking about, like, you know, they're just talking about different things. And he didn't throw the fans under the bus. Like, he just didn't. He just, I mean, and the character he plays was gay in the comics. So it's not like it's so far removed and things have been, you know, race swapped, gender swapped, you know, sexual orientation swapped for no reason. It goes along with that. So it fits. I mean, Death, they really, I mean, they went, somehow Death now likes Agatha. Spoiler, I don't know how you didn't know this by now. And, you know, they could have used her with the Thanos and the Infinity stuff, but they didn't. And instead they bring her in here now, but now she likes pussy apparently. But whatever, you know. Disney's notorious for changing the things from the comics. But even the character that everybody was like really fixated on, he even said, yes, there's gay elements to it, but the focus of the show isn't about being gay. And that is true. It's not. It really isn't. It's in there, but it's not that's not the focus. And I think that was very well answered. And that shows the difference between, you know, what we're seeing with Agatha All Along and the response from the audience and the response from the media as opposed to the Acolyte. All right? So, you know, it hasn't had the same backlash because the media isn't out there slamming on the fans. The cast isn't out there slamming on the fans like they did with the Acolyte. And at the end of the day, just one show is better than the other. And that's just the way it is. It doesn't mean that people are bigots, they don't like it, or they don't watch it. A lot of people aren't watching Agatha All Along. I don't understand how people are so terrible and bigoted that they hate women and they hate, you know, LGBTQ characters and they hate POCs and all that shit was the argument for the Acolyte. And if you didn't watch it, it's also because you're by proxy you're a bigot because you don't watch it. But you're not getting that narrative with Agatha All Along. And as a result, I don't think you're turning people off to it like you were before. But they're two different companies, Lucasfilm and Marvel, and we've seen Lucasfilm in the past handle things very poorly. Very poorly. Gina Carano's situation, you know, we saw the She-Hulk shit. Do you remember the She-Hulk stuff and how the showrunner was out there, was running their mouths and the actors were running their mouths and all that stuff? Now you don't know if they're getting more She-Hulk. We don't know. I think Marvel's learned and they're telling people, hey, just don't engage. Just keep your mouth shut. It's better let the work speak for itself. If it has an audience, great. It's probably not wise to alienate your audience before they watch it. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's the media. The media is, I think, ground zero for, you know, the bigotry and toxic behavior. They are the ones behaving in a toxic manner. If you don't like what I like, it's because you're a bigot. If you don't like the show and don't give it a glowing score because I like it, it's not because maybe the show isn't very good to other people. Maybe it's because you're a bigot. We're not seeing that with Agatha All Along. And while there's not as much top of mind, I don't think with Agatha, because we're not constantly being bombarded by the media, it's actually beneficial to the show because people aren't being, you know, poisoned against it, if that's what their argument is. But if they are, it's by the people who are claiming to love it and want to help it. You literally are suffocating it out with your behavior. You're just turning people off because they're like, I don't even want to be around that shit show. Even if it was good, which frankly, it wasn't that good. I'm sorry, but it wasn't. The reviews are saying so the viewership declined. There's so many indicators that it just wasn't that good. It's people aren't interested. And if ones you do have that are interested, if you're constantly slamming at them, saying, you know, if you don't like this, I know you haven't watched it yet, but if you don't like it, you're a bigot. Just so you know, you better love it or you're a bigot. Do you think people are going to watch the show? Hell no. You think they're going to come in with an open mind and a positive view on this show? No, it's just like the DEI initiatives. All you're doing is creating problems that wouldn't have been there if you just kept your damn mouth shut. You know? People had diverse shows and films for years, and they didn't care if someone was not white. They didn't care if someone was not male. They didn't care if someone was not straight. It happened all the damn time, and no one cared. It's only become an issue because the media and the actors in some cases will not stop creating division. And you won't even give people a chance to like or hate it because you don't let them. They already have their back up against it before they get there just from your behavior. There's been a definite difference in behavior between the Acolyte and Agatha All Along. It is what it is, you know, but if it's everybody hates diversity and inclusion, then why are we not seeing the hate for Agatha like we did for the Acolyte? Because maybe it's not that. maybe it's you. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Join the reef. Go to clownfish-.com. That's clownfish-.com. You will get exclusive access to podcasts and videos and comic strips and more, as well as merch discounts. Check it out. If you were a member, you could get this t-shirt, this dismal t-shirt on our website. You'd get a 10% discount on that. You can also join in the community on clownfish-.com. Thank you so much for the support.